week 8 of the fantasy football season, and here's the top 12 kickers. I'm ranking this week number 1, Justin Tucker of the Baltimore Ravens. So Justin Tucker, he's one of the best kickers of all time. He's on one of the better offenses in the league, and the opportunity's going to be there, especially indoors this week at Arizona, which is a great kicker's field. So right now, with all those factors and this Raven team really playing great football the last few weeks, I got him at 1. Number 2, Tyler Bass of the Buffalo Bills. So Tyler Bass, we know he's a great kicker. I know a few weeks ago versus the New York Giants on Sunday Night Football in Week 6, he did miss 2 field goals, but I think this week, Thursday Night Football, back in Buffalo after last week in New England, where he didn't get many opportunities, and it was a tough loss. I think this Bill team, they're going to really try to get off to a good start after the last few weeks. It's really been slow starts for them and struggling for the most part on offense, but I think Tyler Bass will get opportunities in this game. And this Tampa D kind of is a bend, but don't break unit. So I got him at 2. Number 3, Jake Elliott of the Philadelphia Eagles. So Jake Elliott's got a great matchup at the Commanders, where he's had one of his better games of the season early in the year versus Commander team in Philly on Thursday Night Football. So this week, they're going to Washington. This Commander defense, they played good last week, but it was a weak New York Giant offensive line and backup quarterback Tyrod Taylor. But this week, Jake Elliott, the last 2 weeks, it hasn't been double-digit fantasy points here for him. But I think this week he gets back in that category, and I got him at 3. Number 4, Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs. So Butker, he had 3 games in a row with double-digit fantasy points until last week, where the Chiefs, they just went up and down the field and scored a bunch of touchdowns, and he only had 6 fantasy points. But this week he had division foe, the Denver Broncos. I think this team's going to be living in the red zone a lot in this one. But I think Butker will have a couple opportunities in that altitude as well to have a few 40 or 50-yard opportunities. So this week here with a good matchup and a Denver defense that they don't really stop anyone, even though the last few weeks they played a little bit better on defense. I got him at 4. Number 5, Evan McPherson of the Cincinnati Bengals. So McPherson, I say this a lot, he's one of the best kickers in the league. I know he's missed some on and off this season and haven't had the greatest of games, but when he's going and when this offense is clicking, which I think they're going to start turning things around after they were 1-3 and got to 3-3 before the bye. I think McPherson in a game versus a good 49er defense where they're going to have to settle for field goals and still get points on the board at the same time as this Cincinnati Bengal team. I think McPherson comes back this week off the bye week refreshed. And this Bengal team knows they need this game and they need points. So I got McPherson at 5. Number 6, Brandon Aubrey of the Dallas Cowboys. So Brandon Aubrey, he's been solid for this Cowboy team this season, where he's come out of nowhere. He pretty much was a soccer player and has been an NFL kicker for the first time. He didn't play college football as well. And he's been solid, like I said, kicking it through the uprights. He's missed an extra point this season and 1 field goal. But Brandon Aubrey, for the most part, everything's been right down the middle. So this weekend, a potential shootout versus the Los Angeles Rams. And this Cowboy team doesn't punch it in a lot in the red zone. I got him at 6. Number 7, Dustin Hopkins of the Cleveland Browns. So Dustin Hopkins, the last 2 weeks, he's put on monster performances with 39 fantasy points in the last 2 games. So this week here at the Seattle Seahawks, who have a pretty solid defense. Walker's starting once again. You know, this Cleveland Brown team, they're going to be settling for field goals. He's driven the ball down the field a lot in the games he started or the games he's appeared in. So this week here with a tougher matchup for this offense to score touchdowns, and Dustin Hopkins being a good kicker, and it's a good kicker's field as well over there in Seattle. I got him at 7. Number 8, Young Hoku of the Atlanta Falcons. So Young Hoku had a big game last week, including a game-winning field goal to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. So this week it's a matchup with the Tennessee Titans, where they're middle of the pack type of defense, where they play better at home, not giving up touchdowns. So this week, I know it's not an indoor game. I know who's better indoors and better at home, obviously, over there in Atlanta. But like I said, Tennessee at home, they do give up a lot of field goals. So this week, I think Young Hoku, once again, gets a few opportunities, and I think we're going to see a lot of drives as well stall out for Atlanta, where he has to settle for field goals. So he's 8. Number 9, Jason Sanders of the Miami Dolphins. So Jason Sanders on a high-powered offense. I know the fantasy points haven't followed over the last few weeks to go with a high-powered offense, but this week it's versus and for the New England Patriots, which is a bend but don't break type of defense. I think Sanders in this one will get his 3 or 4 extra points, obviously, but also I think 2 or 3 field goals as well, because this Miami team, they want to get off to a quicker start. Last week, definitely a tough loss versus the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly. And this week here, Miami back at home versus a defense that gives up a lot of fantasy points to kickers on the season. I got him in 9. Number 10, Daniel Carlson Las Vegas Raiders. So this Raider team most likely going into the game with either Hoyer or Aiden O'Donnell, their backup quarterback, starting in this game. So right now, Carlson last week, he did miss a 40-yarder, but then he bounced back with a couple field goals. So right now, this Raider team's had trouble punching the ball in the end zone over the last few weeks. And like I said, if it's either Hoyer or O'Donnell, once again, I think they're going to be settling for field goals. But we know versus this Detroit offense, especially in Detroit, you're going to have to put points on the board. So right now with another indoor game, and Carlson, he's pretty much been automatic over the last 2 seasons, even though he did miss last week. I got him at 10, number 11, Cameron Dicker, the Los Angeles Chargers. Cameron Dicker's with a high-powered offense over there in Los Angeles. I know the fantasy points really haven't followed over the last few weeks for him, but this week a good matchup with the Chargers back at home versus the Chicago Bears. That really can't stop anyone. And this Charger team knows if they can't win this ball game, the season's most likely over for them on making the playoffs. I think Cameron Dicker in this game is going to get a few opportunities. This is a high-powered offense still, I believe, over there in Los Angeles, even though over the last 2 weeks they've scored 17 versus the Cowboys in Week 6, and then Week 7 in Kansas City only 17. But this week I think this offense gets back on track and gets scoring the football and more field goal opportunities, because there's times they go for it on 4th down a lot where they could have settled for field goals. So I think this week they change it up a little bit. And the 12th and final kicker I'm rankings, Mac A, the Indianapolis Colts. So Mac A's been solid this season for the Colts, and he's been one of the highest paid kickers of all time, signing in the offseason, leaving the Rams, going to Indianapolis. And this Indianapolis team, for the most part, has had trouble finding the end zone. Besides last week, Gardner Minshew, we had a monster game. Him and Josh Downs on the same page. Him and Jonathan Taylor connecting, and also him and Michael Pittman. But this week, I don't see them scoring all those touchdowns once again and putting 38 points on the board. I see it more where they're going to be settling for field goals, and it's going to be a grinded out game versus the Saints. So that's the top 12 kickers I'm ranking for Week 8.